Hey guys, Avi here, and welcome back to our Python development series. Now we left off where we covered what strings are, what placeholders in strings are, all that good stuff. In today's lecture, we'll be tackling one of Python's first data structures, which are Python lists. Okay? So first thing first, what is a list? Well, generally, what do you think of when you think of a list? It's a set of items that are ordered, they have an index, you know what each value is, and that's basically the same case for a Python list. It's a comma-separated value that allows us to access any item based on its index. So let's say I'm going shopping, okay? I want to create a shopping list in Python. I want to get apples, oranges, bananas, and cheese, okay? Now, one way I could do this is by associating each item to a variable. I could say item 1 is apples, item 2 is oranges, item 3 is bananas, item 4 is cheese. And yes, that works, but if you think about it, you don't want to create tens of hundreds of variables because that's inefficient. Instead, we have lists. So take a look. So I have apples, oranges, bananas, and cheese in my list. And this is the syntax. You start with a square bracket, have your 4 items separated by commas, and then you close it with the square brackets. Now, this part over here is for the variables. Yes, I could have done the variables, but instead, let's X this, and we're going to use a list. One key thing that you have to remember about a list is that the indexing is off by 1. What you guys might think as the first item, which is apples, is actually index 0 in the list because counting starts from 0. So if I want the second item in my list, I'm not going to say list 2, I'm going to say list 1 because the second item in our list is actually the first index position. So let's go ahead and create a list and everything will make sense soon. So I'm going to go ahead and call this shop list. And again, square brackets, every item separated by commas. So these are strings again, apples, oranges, bananas, and cheese, okay? So now we have our shop list. If we go ahead and print this out, you'll notice that this is the array format, and every item is separated by commas. Now how do I access a value? Well, we just discussed that the index is off by 1. So if I want the first item, I say shop list 0. Well, it's very straightforward. All I have to do is say shop list and then in square brackets, put in your index. So I want the first item, I say shop list 0, I get apples. I want the third item, I say 3 minus 1, 2, shop list 2, bananas. Third item or fourth item, then I say 4 minus 3, 1, that's 3, shop list 3 gets me cheese. Now, one cool thing about PyCharm or almost any IDLE is that if you want to go to a previous line of code that you've written, you can always use the arrow keys to go up and down your code. For example, if I want to use the same line of code from my shop list 3, I just hit the arrow key up and I get that code and I can modify it, do whatever I want. Awesome. So this is one way you can access your items in an array. There's also splicing in arrays. I can say shop list 0 to 2, and this will get me apples and oranges. It's very similar to what we discussed before. Instead of it takes the first parameter, which is 0, it goes to 1, and then it doesn't count your end range. So it says 0, 1, whoops, we don't count 2, it stops. If I want to get the first 3 items, I'll say shop list 0 to 3, it says 0, 1, 2, whoops, we hit 3, stop. So that's how we access values in lists. Now we want to update it. Say we're talking to our parents or we're talking to someone and they're like, oh, go ahead and get me blueberries as well. How do we add items to our list when we've already created it? Well, one nice thing about lists is that they're mutable. You can add objects, you can append, delete, do a lot of functions, a lot of different methods with lists. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is add an item to our list. And we use the append function to do that. Shop list.append, and I'm going to go ahead and append blueberries, okay? Now, if I print out shop list, you're going to notice that blueberries has been appended to the end of our shopping list, which is exactly what we wanted. But now let's say, oh, we no longer need apples, we actually need cherries, okay? There's been a mass shortage of cherries, we want cherries now. How do we change that? Well, there's another way we can do this. We can go ahead and say shop list 0. So the item at the first position of our list should be equal to cherries, okay? Go ahead and understand the syntax. We're basically saying that whatever item exists at this position, update its value to cherries. So now when I say shop list, instead of apples, I get cherries, oranges, bananas, cheese, blueberries. So that's one way you can update values in an index, and the append method allows us to add objects to our array or to our list. Now let's say, okay, we've done all of this, but guess what? We no longer need oranges because no one likes oranges, all right? How do we delete items in our list? Well, one way you can do this is by using the delete method. You say delete using del as the method name, and then you say shop list, whichever index, whatever you want to delete. I want to delete oranges, and I know that's index 2. Oh, I'm sorry. That's index 1. So go ahead and say delete shop list 1, and now when I say shop list, I get cherries, bananas, cheese, blueberries. Oranges has been removed from our list. All right, so what have we covered so far? We've covered how to add to an array, how to create an array, how to get in position of an item in an array, and how to delete an object in an array. Now, there's a few more cool things you can do with arrays. Just like we learned the arithmetic operators, you can use the same things for arrays. You can go ahead and add arrays, you can multiply arrays. Let's go ahead and see how they work. First of all, let's go ahead and see how many items are in my shop list. And I can do that using the len function. The len method returns me how many items are in my list, no matter what. Okay, so there's 4 items in my list. Now let's say I had another list. I'm going to call this shop list 2. And this is going to have bread and jam and peanut butter. Okay? And I want to combine these 2 lists together. What I can do is say shop list plus shop list 2. You can add array lists, you can add lists together to create one big giant list. Another thing you can do is multiply lists. You can say something like, if you want to repeat values multiple times, you can say shop list times 2. And that repeats the values in shop list once and then twice. So these are just some of the arithmetical operators that you can use in lists. They're very basic and they're very straightforward. Adding lists together, finding out if you can multiply lists. 2 more functions I want to touch base on before I end this lecture, and that's max and min. Suppose we have in a list of the greatest of a few numbers. I'm going to call this list num, and I'm going to go ahead and populate it with some numbers. 1, 4, 5, or 7, 23, and 6. Okay? If I want to find the max of list num, find the biggest number there, I can call the max function on our list num list. And if I want to find the smallest value, I can say min of list num. Awesome. So in this lecture, we touched base on lists. We covered what they are, how to create them, indexing, appending, deleting, mathematical operators, and then last but not least, the max and min functions. Now there's many more things you can do with lists, but just as a quick introduction, I hope lists made sense to you. Anyways, that's it from my side, and I'll see you in the next video.